call the Town of St. John Park Board meeting to order. We could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bovat,
Here.
Mr. Moffett,
Here.
Mr. Boersma.
Here.
3 members present, constitutes a quorum. And just a reminder, all votes taken need to be unanimous for this evening.
Item number 3, to consider the acceptance of Melissa Stefanko resignation.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the resignation of Melissa Stefanko as Park Board member and Vice President.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Oh, sorry, aye.
Okay. Motion carries 3-0. This time we'll move to item 4, election of officers. I'd like to ask for nominations for Park Board President. Are there any nominations?
Yes, I make a motion to appoint Mike Bovat as the board president.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Mike Bovat will be the Park Board President for calendar year 2020. Election of officers for Vice President. Any nominations for Vice President?
I'll go. I'm going to ask for the nomination for Park Board Vice President. Motion to appoint Mike Moffett as the Park Board Vice President.
Second.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Mike Moffett will be the Vice President of the Park Board, calendar year 2020. Next item, item 6, approval of minutes from the Tuesday, June 16th, 2020 meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the June 16th, 2020 Park Board minutes.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. At this time, we'd like to have a presentation by Flex Court and St. John Paving.
It's not a presentation, he's available strictly for Q&A.
Okay. And we're going to do that by phone?
Yes, just a moment, please. Jim, are you there? Jim? There's somebody who is a part of the group, but he's not responding.
Is that for Jim Anderson for the
Yeah.
Flex Court?
Yeah, if you look at the monitor, you can see that someone else has joined us via telephone.
Could he possibly be muted?
He shows up as not muted. Let's see. It's via telephone, so
Okay. Are you trying them one more time, Jason?
yeah. Jim, are you there? Can you hear us? Is your phone muted on your side? Yeah. Let's see. I'll go get his phone number from my office and try calling him.
Okay. Actually, I think we can ask for Gabe to come up and comment maybe about. Not sure we can even do that, Mike. I'm not sure if you can actually discuss it.
Okay, because, oh, you dropped off. Oh, well, the meeting started now, so we're ready for you. So if you want to call that number again, and you should be there. All right, thanks. All right, bye. Because the meeting started late, he got the on-hold music and then disconnected before we got started. So
Yeah.
he's going to try logging in again.
Like when I call DirecTV, I understand that. Music.
While we're waiting, Craig, I have a question. Like in something like this, if we'd like to discuss this, is it possible during a meeting, or do we have to like make a motion second, then discussion? Or can we not really discuss that amongst us? Like if we're trying to decide what we want to do between one company or the other company, or do we have to do that in like an executive session?
Oh, no, that's not something you can discuss in executive session. So you would need to, someone would need to make a motion and second, and then have discussion.
Can you hear us, Jim?
Before, to be clear, before any vote is taken, obviously.
That's what I thought. I want to find out.
They could also defer it if they wanted to.
Yeah,
Yeah, they can defer.
but if they want to discuss it tonight, they need to make a motion, someone needs to second the motion, and then there's discussion.
Can you hear us? We can't hear you.
Just put him on speakerphone.
That's what I'm going to do next.
There you go.
Thank you, Johnny.
All right, we can't hear you, so we're just going to put you on speakerphone.
Okay.
So. All right. OTEC solution.
Okay, we have you.
Okay.
Yeah. And, yeah, we'd like to have just a little insight into the flex court and what it's going to be able to do that maybe the asphalt won't.
Okay,
If you could comment on that?
sure. So I don't know how much Gabe has shared with you, or if you've had a chance to maybe look at like our website or anything along those lines, but essentially what FlexCourt is a it's a tile system that goes down over existing asphalt or concrete surfaces. And there are several benefits to playing on this type of surface versus the actual concrete or asphalt. You know, probably most important to you guys is going to be the fact that once the courts are put down, they are essentially maintenance free for the next 16 to 20 years. They do come with a 16-year manufacturer's warranty. So like I said, the big benefit is the fact that once they're down, there is no maintenance that comes with the product versus doing a standard asphalt surface where you have to recoat it with acrylic every few years to keep them looking nice. The other big benefit is if the surface underneath were to happen to crack or starts to deteriorate, if you put the acrylic surface down, obviously that shows right away. The tile system will be somewhat forgiving for that as long as the cracks stay even with each other, which typically they do. They'll just separate underneath the tiles and nobody will ever know that they're under there. So those are going to be two of the big reasons for or benefits to the tile versus doing the acrylic, which I think is what you've had on there in prior years. From a playability standpoint, the tiles are 3/4 of an inch high. It's a 10 inch by 10 inch tile and 3/4 inch thick. And what that also allows is the tiles to have a little bit of flex to them. So players that are out there only receive about 50% of the shock through like their ankles, knees, hips, and so forth. So they are more comfortable to play on. Players will be less sore. The other thing is we have 16 different colors you can choose from, and we can really do some really neat designs with the product as well.
I had a couple of questions for you, Jim. As far as the warranty, per chance, if something did happen, how does that work? Do you cover everything, or is there like a labor charge for that? How does the warranty work?
If it's anything that's a manufacturer's defect, and or something, with us doing the install, any labor that we would have provided, we would cover that. So, obviously, if say 4 or 5 years down the road, you have a lightning strike and a tree falls on it, and you have some damaged tiles. Obviously that wouldn't be something that would be covered under a warranty or the labor to replace those. But the tiles, because it is a modular system, are very easy to just pop up to replace if you ever did have any damage, or if somebody wants to come out there and do something dumb and spray paint the courts or something like that. It is something you could essentially be able to pop up the ones that got damaged and replace those. If it's a manufacturer's defect, which very rarely ever happens, these are made out of a virgin polypropylene resin that are molded into the tile. Really, once they're down, if they make it 6 months, they're going to make it the full life of the warranty, because there's really nothing to go wrong with them.
Okay.
Usually, if there's any kind of a manufacturer's warranty, we'll see it within the first few months, and that's usually because maybe we got a bad batch of resin that went through the machine and the tiles would be brittle or something like that. That usually shows up pretty quick.
Okay.
And if it doesn't show up in the first few months or so, chances are you probably won't see any kind of a warranty issue with the tile.
And another question, as far as do you have any type of information or data about I know you said it's player friendly, but with injuries or slipping or anything like that?
There's really not any, proven studies or so forth with it. I've got DIN testing, what they call the flex in a tile. I have those types of things, but really it really doesn't show. It just basically shows the flex of the tile. It really doesn't go into, how soft it is or how much it's going to be how much safer it would be versus playing on the regular asphalt.
Okay, okay.
You answered my question,
Okay.
or you asked him, so.
I have one. You gave us a bid on 3 different courts. Will this be able to go on all of those, or do any of these, do we need to replace the asphalt before you put it down, or do you think you can just go right over all of them? I know one of the parts at Larimer was pretty bad, the asphalt.
Yeah. Gabe showed, he shared pictures with the 3 courts with me. If you notice on the 3 bids, the one for, is it Larimore?
Yeah, Larimer Park, it has the bad asphalt.
Yeah, I mean, so what I do is when I do these is, I work hand in hand with our install manager, and he's seen all the pictures. What he would recommend doing, that one actually had the higher bid for the crack repair job that would be done on it. So he's fully aware of the repair job that would need to be done. Let me preface this too. This is sometimes when people will misunderstand that, what we do is we come in, we will, if there's any bird bath areas that are low-lying areas where water will collect and so forth, we'll fill those in. The cracks, we'll dig those out. We'll dump weed killer down in them, and then we fill them with what they call it's a vinyl patch binder, which has a little bit of flex to it. So once that surface is cracked, it's going to continue to crack. There's just nothing you can do about that. What the stub material that we use has a little bit of flex to it, so as that surface will move up and down with the spring and the thaw, it will move with it. So it allows that crack to stay repaired, versus just breaking right out like trying to put fresh concrete or something like that in there. So when we do the crack repair job, we get them probably between 90 to 95% perfect. You can't get it completely perfect, but as far as making it a playable surface and allowing the public to enjoy the courts, that's what we aim to do.
Okay, thank you for that.
And say that, you do the underlayment, sublayment, whatever you call it. If that does move or heaves like a couple inches and actually pops the tiles, that wouldn't be considered manufacturer warranty, correct?
No, but it would be. The good thing for you guys with where you're located, you're not very far from us. So if it is something that you find that the surface would continue to deteriorate, we can do a couple of things. We can do a service call. We can come back out. We can do some more crack repair for you if that needs to be done. The other good thing about this project is modular. So, if you end up with a section that just needs to be completely torn out and reinstalled, you can pop those tiles up. You can make your repair underneath of it, and then just lay the tiles back down. So it's not like you're. It's not. From that standpoint, it's really easy to do that.
Okay. I have one last question, like the project itself, start to finish, how long do you think does that take?
Well, I would say, my guys that come out, we usually bring either a 3 or 4 man install team. I would say, I would plan on probably, for the 2 courts that aren't too bad of shape, I would plan on the better part of a day for doing the crack repair job, and the probably a full day to go ahead and lay the court.
Okay,
So you're probably looking, 2 to 3 days a piece. If you decide you want to do, multiple courts, I would say, we would probably be there the better part of a week.
okay. Any other questions, gentlemen?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Hey, Jim, thank you for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We'll be in touch.
All right, thank you very much.
Could we have Gabe give his, a presentation on it? Would that be kind of considered comments?
Yeah, I think we can.
Presentation?
With the presentation, if, because Gabe, you kind of had the lead on that, would you mind commenting on? on
So, Michael, can you go to the podium, please? We got audio.
Hello. So we have 3 courts, and each one was definite. So he first gave one price to rip out for each one, but then I asked him to go back and kind of give his opinion on each one individually on what we can do with the bare minimum. So basically, if you started at Civic, which is our best intact court, which is only a couple small cracks here or there, but still well playable, the total would be like $25,515. But he made his recommendation to do like crack fill only, and that was because there was already a overlay on it. So he said once there's an overlay on it that you can't do like a second coat on it. So that's why he made that recommendation on there. And then my only really concern with all the courts would be Larimer. Larimer's in really bad shape. Its sub base is garbage. So that would be my only concern with I think having to do paving, is because you don't want to put something down and have to keep fighting with it over the years and just be one big headache.
Gabe, I got a question, is, obviously it's looking like that they charge by the square foot. I mean, because it looks like all the steps are all the same on all 3 courts. But I'm noticing.
Roughly by the square foot, yes, roughly. He did measure them out by the square feet, so I'm guessing it is. I mean, they're a little bit off by size here and there. Again, with the asphalt, it's not going to include the basketball hoops. So either way, we're going to have to go through someone to get basketball hoops. And then for paving, he recommends that you tear out the goals before paving. That way nothing's cracked. And then have him put it back in. That way he can do his like striping and everything else accordingly. The advantages to having the sports coating, he said, is that it seals the asphalt and stops the water from getting in there and heaving up the asphalt. So I think long-term, this is a big deal for us to spend any kind of money on anything. So you want to do the best you can with what you got if you're going to do something, because you don't want to be back here in 10 years when costs are 4 times the amount. Costs never go down, costs always go up. We all know this. So you really want to give the public the best bang for their buck. So, I mean, it'd be up to you guys to go over everything and decide what you're comfortable with doing.
Do you know off the top of your head, Gabe? Because I don't. And so, average cost to keep repairing the pavements, what does that usually run?
I'm not sure on the average cost, but I can tell you that he told me if you do the expensive coat for the sports crack, it's every 5 to 7 years we'll need to redo the paint and fill the cracks that may appear. If no sports paint, then it's every 2 to 3 years to maintain a good court.
But what would, like I'm saying, we've been constantly patching and repairing them.
We haven't been,
At all?
no,
What does it cost to patch and repair?
I'm
Just,
unaware.
okay, I'm just curious.
You know what? Well, I guess, okay, so we can go down right here, because actually, so just to crack fill only, about $2,500. That's for Civic, so that'd be one of the ones that you would need to just patch and repair, so that'd be about roughly $2,500 to like $3,500. Now, that crack fill does not include doing any uneven spots. That's just filling the cracks.
Right.
There's some low spots in there, but they're still playable. Any other questions?
I think I'm good. Anything, Mike? Thank you, Gabe.
All right.
Moving on to item number 8, new business. Consider proposals rendered to the Park Board for Civic Park, Lancer Park, and Larimer Park basketball court repair restoration. And I think we've seen a lot of information on this. I think we have kind of a little bit of a good understanding of what we need to do. And it's going to be my recommendation that we proceed with the Larimer Park for asphalt, which would be $27,783. And we could proceed with Civic Park for the Flex Court for $20,471. And then we could do Lancer Park with the Flex Court for $20,970. I'd like to make a motion that we proceed with the repairs of the courts.
I'll make that motion, but I want to add to it to get the flex court, to get the backboards for Larimer. Because we're going to have to rip those out. Is that correct?
Correct.
So I'll make that motion to the Civic will be the flex court. Larimer will just replace all the asphalt, we'll have to
With
rip out the
asphalt.
post. Flex court will put in the new backboards there because we're already paying the one lump sum for all the backboards. And then the other one would be the flex court.
Okay.
So how do I word that?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Along with new business, I'd like to consider of offer of employment for park superintendent position. We have a candidate that is willing to accept. His name is Tyler McLeod. Do I have a motion?
Go ahead, I'm sorry, Mike.
I'll make the motion to hire Tyler McLeod as a park superintendent and authorize the town manager to execute a formal offer of employment for the same.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. With new business, moving on to consider professional services agreement with Nicole Bennett of Westland and Bennett PC.
I will make the motion to approve the professional services through December 31st, 2020 with Nicole Bennett of Westland and Bennett PC and authorize the park board president to execute the same.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Just like to make a comment here. I feel that as a park board, we're very fortunate to have Nicole Bennett as the park board attorney. I understand that Mrs. Bennett comes highly recommended. She has a very impressive resume and a reputation of strong character. She works at Westland and Bennett PC, who is presently representing the town council for the town of St. John. And I believe that those assets will be able to blend together and be extremely effective. Ms. Bennett is also known for wanting to help people. And Mrs. Bennett, we could certainly use your help in the park board. With that, I would like and ask you to come up here and take a seat on the dais.
Welcome aboard.
And if you have any comments, feel free to comment if you choose.
We are just very pleased to be able to be here and to, be at your service with moving forward with the projects that you have, that you're proposing here. It's been a pleasure to be serving St. John since earlier this year and to proceed. Is it off?
Oh, sorry.
I thought it was. Sorry. And to be able to proceed forward in a further capacity. So I thank you for the opportunity.
And we're honored to have you. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for that. Next item is on the new business, it's to consider approval of Summer Volleyball League participation fee of $45 for residents and $50 for non-residents.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the Summer Volleyball League participation fees, which is being held from July 15th through August 16th, 2020, $45 for residents and $50 for non-residents.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item of new business, to consider payment to the volleyball officials in the amount of $15 per game.
I'll make the motion to approve payment to the volleyball officials between the dates of July 15th, 2020 through August 16th, 2020 in the amount of $15 per game for the 2020 season.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Next item to consider payment to Great Lakes Recreation for an aquatic pad controller for the Huron Lake Splash Pad in the amount of $5,285.
I'll make the motion to approve payment to Great Lakes Recreation in the amount of $5,285 for an aquatic pad controller for Huron Lake Splash Pad.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Next item of new business, to consider payment to Fence Masters for replacement fencing and a dumpster enclosure at Heartland Park in the amount of $6,130.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the payment to Fence Masters in the amount of $6,130 for the replacement fencing and a dumpster enclosure at Heartland Park.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Next item of new business, to consider approval of Movie in the Park event to be held on August 7th, 2020.
I'll make a motion to approve moving the park event to occur on August 7th, 2020.
I'd like to comment
Certainly.
with everything that's going on right now. According to the stats, that this plans on carrying through that date. So I meant to question it too about the volleyball. Is that all still going to carry through with this COVID?
Well, it seems to be changing almost daily.
Daily, yeah.
So for me, in all honesty, I can't say I have an answer. It's very fluid. Right now, I think it's acceptable, and I think we can do that. But if something comes down the pipe, I think we may have to take action.
Okay, well, I'll second the motion.
And at this time, like the volleyball's considered the outside sports, that still is, we're allowed to do that.
Okay.
Because I don't know about the football and all that, I don't know where they're at in that part of it, but that's obviously contact sports.
Right.
So I know we're not up to that level yet, so I mean, that part of the volleyball, I know they were, according to before, I know things change daily.
Yeah. Hourly.
After the second by Johnny, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. And thank you for your comment, Johnny. Item number 9, old business. Any comments to old business? Item 10 then, reports and correspondence. Anything from the board members? Johnny or Mike, any comments or?
I'd like to thank Craig for getting the dumpsters and the porta pots out there. It helped out. I mean, this morning I went out there and both dumpsters are almost full. They're not overflowing. It's working out excellent. I want to thank you for taking care of that for us.
I just got a comment. We're a new park board member. Mike's our most senior individual, but we've really been challenged without a park superintendent and things like the Wuhan virus. And thanks to this park board, even though we're novices here, I do appreciate everyone's effort here. I'm not waiting to see if something could happen, but really trying to make something happen and take the initiative. We have the Beanbag League going on. We have the volleyball going on, like Mike mentioned. The beanbag thing is going to be a lot of success. I only see that as growing. I think the movie in the park will be an asset to the community. And one comment is like, how does things like that happen? They happen with the support of the town council, our liaison, Wayne Pondinas, people like that, assistance from Gabe Hernandez. We as park board members are somewhat limited, but we have help. And we have lots of work in that beanbag tournament. I heard that Johnny's not maybe as effective as he wants to be, so coaching, I think, would be welcomed. Gabe, just throwing it out there.
I'd like to say that my partner needs practice. So,
Duly noted.
but Gabe, yes, thank you for everything that you do. You're relentless, and I think a lot of things wouldn't happen without you. So I do want to say that for the record. Thank you.
And I would also want to say that things like this happen with the cooperation of like Beth Hernandez in the clerk treasurer's office, and all the people that she has working with her, all coming together. They took a lead in getting this out to the community, and I'm grateful that we have some things that we're being effective as, and hopefully we can reach out to the community a little bit more and move forward. That's my comment. I'd like to go on now to staff. Craig?
Okay, I have a few things. I just want to remind the park board, I guess, a matter of procedure. The Veteran Civic Park is not owned by the park board, so you'll need to request approval from the town council to do the improvements you'd like to do in Civic Park. It's just a matter of procedure. That is a piece of ground that was donated to the town, and there has very specific and strict rules associated with it. So just want to make sure that you guys submit a specific request to the town council to request approval to expend those funds to make those improvements. Secondly, I had sent you guys an email back on July 2nd with regard to some work that needs to be done in Founders Park. The council had previously approved the town seeking a grant for doing the improvements that will become Founders Park. Hopefully that work will start later this year. It was the intention of the council and the park board previously that the grant pays for roughly 50% of the base rate of the cost of the park. The other 50% of the cost that the grant does not cover, plus soft costs, so that's everything from surveying to geotechnical services to other engineering type of services that are needed beyond what's approved by the grant, would be the responsibility of the town to cover. And so that includes things like geotechnical services, which are a necessary step in the preparation of the final plans for a project like this. It was my understanding that 50% plus the cost of those soft costs that I mentioned would come from recreation impact fees, which are controlled by the park board. And in order to keep this project on track, so that we don't risk the grant funding that's associated with that project, it's necessary for us to continue to do those steps necessary before the final design is done. And so we had received a proposal from K&S Engineers. Previously we had received a proposal from AES Engineering, but they had indicated there was some confusion, I think, between the main project consultants and AES Engineering on whether or not AES was willing to restore the cost of damage that would be done to neighboring property to the park property for the purpose of the drilling rigs for the geotechnical work to go across the neighbor's property. And so given the fact that we were told that they were unwilling to do that restoration work and build a town for that, we asked for a proposal from K&S Engineers as an alternate to that, and they had also submitted previously a quote. So their estimate for the cost of the actual geotechnical work you have a copy of. As I said, I sent it before and I sent it again today. It's $5,750. Plus the estimate of the possibility of any damage done as a result of the geotechnical rig crossing the neighbor's property, and it'd be the neighboring property to the immediate south, if you will, of where the Founders Park property kind of terminates at the west end of the property into Three Springs neighborhood. The estimate I've been given is that should not exceed $1,250, and so what I'm looking for is approval from the board, like I said, to keep this work going and to not jeopardize the grant money that we anticipate becoming available for the work to be completed to actually build the park in the fall in an amount not to exceed $7,000, just to be safe for that restoration work. And so that's what's being requested of you tonight. And it's my understanding, like I said, that this would be from park impact fee funds, which the park board would need to approve.
I know for me, I don't have clarity on why is that coming right now from the park board fee if we're not sure if we're doing that.
We are doing that. We're committed to the project. The
So
town
if we
council-
don't get the grant, are we?
The grant, we received the grant, the town council committed the funds to that grant, the total cost of the project, and we received a grant in the amount of 50% of the base cost of the project. So the town is responsible for the other 50% of the whole park project, which it was intended to come out of park impact fees when the when the application was submitted for the grant. And there was a commitment made when the application was submitted to the grant.
That may have been prior to our time. I mean, I don't,
It was.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do we know for sure that we have that grant? Because I was told it's gonna be,
It's the-
it's with the county and it's gonna be like maybe September.
That's a different grant. Okay, so
okay.
there's another grant, affiliated with this as well, that I was hoping to offset the
Getting up to speed.
town's portion of that 50%. So we anticipate, for Founder's Park, receiving hopefully $60,456 of that money that we would have to commit, the 50% that we would have to commit, from what are called Community Development Block Grants, which are HUD funds that are available for doing handicap improvements, handicap accessible improvements within different facilities in town. And we hope to receive separately from that $15,000 from that same grant for Prairie West Park, which we can talk about separately. But so essentially, basically, the grant pays, again, for the base rate of the construction of the park, it pays 50% of the cost of that. It's about a $550,000 project. So if you do the math, the grant is $270,000. The other 50% was intended to come from park impact fees, plus the soft costs would have to, there's a maximum amount of soft costs that are allowed to be included in the grant, and those have already, their maximum has already been included in the grant. Everything above that is required to be paid for by the town, so things like this geotechnical work that's needed to finalize the design. So that, of that 50% that the town would pay out of park impact fees, we would hope to offset that by that $60,456 that we would receive. Hopefully, we'll find out in the early fall, late summer, early fall, whether or not we receive those funds from Community Development Block Grant funds from the feds, from HUD, to help offset that cost.
But you're saying we really can't even get to that point until we get these samples, and is that correct?
We need these samples in order to finalize the design, because there are some, there's a small amount of wetland on the very far west end of the property, almost up to, like I said, the Three Springs neighborhood. And then there's also a need to do geotechnical, sorry?
If you look at the monitor, it shows.
Craig, forgive me for my ignorance. I'm just trying to get up to speed here, though. This park has been approved, and it is a project that,
There was a commitment letter sent by the town council previously when the application for the fund, town council and park board previously when the application for the grant funding, which I believe is a DNR grant, for the project, was submitted. So if you look at the screen, you'll see the kind of bluish outlined area. That's the park that's the majority of the park property. There is another small triangular part of the property that's kind of kitty corner to that, to the southwest, right up against, let's see, that would be 99th Ave. It's right on the curve, so I'm not sure exactly, but,
This little one.
Our lift station.
oh, I see.
right. And so there's a trail that's intended to be built from the parking lot. The parking lot would be on the far eastern end of the property near Parish Avenue. There would be a parking lot and then a pavilion next to the parking lot and a trail that would then extend through the entire property out to the Three Springs neighborhood. Where that trail crosses, there's a very, very small wetland on the very far western tip of that major, the bigger property that we had highlighted earlier. That very far southwestern corner, there's a little bit of wetland right in there. So it's necessary to do some geotechnical work to make sure that we understand the soil so that the boardwalk that would cross that small wetland is built properly. And then underneath the pavilion on the far eastern end of the property near the parking lot, we need to make sure we do at least one boring underneath that site that the structure would sit on so that we understand the soils beneath the structure. So those are necessary so they can finalize the design of the boardwalk as well as the foundations for the structure, the pavilion structure adjacent to the parking lot. And like I said, it'd be, the geotechnical work itself, which includes basically soil borings as laid out in the proposal that I gave you a copy of, would be they propose one soil boring to a depth of 20 feet below the location of the proposed shelter structure, and then 2 soil borings to a depth of 30 feet for the boardwalk structure on that far western end of the property. The total of those, and then the other elements associated with doing those borings, which include things like mobilization costs of moving the equipment to the site, et cetera. So the budget cost estimate for that is $5,750. When I spoke to KNS, I asked them to give me a maximum amount that would be anticipated for the possible restoration of the property. If you see on the screen, there's a property that's just to the immediate south, right there, where you can, I don't know if you can see where the cursor is located currently. That property right there, it's necessary for them to cross the far northwestern edge of that property with the drilling rig in order to get back to that area where the wetland is located. In order to do that, they would probably they're going to put down some mats to try to minimize the impact on the property, but there's a possibility that they might need to restore some grass or fill in some ruts and that sort of thing. They anticipate the cost of that not to exceed, to give us a little bit of cushion on that, not to exceed $1,250. So the total request would be for the cost of the actual geotechnical engineering, as well as the geotechnical work, I should say, as well as the restoration, an amount not to exceed $7,000.
So the budget estimate is $5,750, is that correct?
For the base work.
Okay. You think it would exceed that or no?
And then $1,250 for possible restoration.
Or
So-
the yards and whatnot?
For the yard adjacent. And the property owner has said that if the company will give them in writing that they're willing to restore any damage done, that they're willing to allow the rig to cross their property in order to do that work.
Okay.
So it'd be an amount not to exceed total of $7,000.
So, can you move forward?
Can we put the soil borings in there for Prairie West too? Because I don't, how quick can you get soil borings? Because if we're gonna go ahead with it, we might wanna, update that parking lot too. And that was option 5, I think. We're gonna add another, we're gonna add 68 spaces, to give us a total of
Right.
118 spaces, so is it hard to get a boring rig out there? I mean, I don't wanna delay Prairie West expansion.
Well, okay, so this work is basically ordered and ready to go. We would have to put the project on, a little bit of a hold in order for them to add the other borings into the project to do the work that they needed to do to get this estimate put together. So currently, what I'm having done is Haas and Associates, and I sent an email to Wayne this morning. Haas and Associates is currently putting together estimates for the soil borings for Founders Park. And they've reached out to this company as well as 2 other companies because they expect the cost to exceed the $4,000 threshold that I can approve as town manager. That would have to be approved by the Park Board. We anticipate it's going to be in the $4,000 to $5,000 range for those soil borings. And I'm hoping to come to the next Park Board meeting with the request for funding for the soil borings for Prairie West. So those estimates are underway.
Okay. And just so you're aware, I think I sent an email out July 17th, not aware of the contract, and I didn't get a response till 11:30 today. That's why it wasn't on the agenda.
Okay, well, 17th was Friday.
Yes.
So I was off Friday and Monday, and so I apologize that I didn't get that until today. But there was some confusion, I guess, about what was sent on July 2nd, so
Right. So I responded, and I didn't get a response till 11:30 today.
Okay, and
That's why.
so, well, hopefully you've got the information you need now
We do.
to understand what we
We
need to
do.
do.
Are you guys pretty clear on this? Any questions?
Yeah, no,
I'd like to make a motion, we accept the proposal from KNS Engineering for the geotechnical and the repair work not to exceed $7,000.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So that was Mr. Moffett, and seconded by Mr. Boersma, correct?
Yes.
And 3-0, okay. And then the third item I have is I sat an aerial photo on the desk in front of you. I
have
just
that.
wanted to let you know that I was approached by a property owner. There was a little bit of confusion at first as to whether or not this was a park property or a town property, because a portion of Edgewood Park is owned by the town, and a portion of the park is owned by the park board. It turns out that the property owner, who I gave you the contact information, who'd like you to reach out to him, he wants to discuss the possible sale of that property if the parks if they determine whether or not they need it. He'd like to discuss that with you, and I gave you a copy of the map that outlines the parcel in question. So I just want to make sure you're aware that I received that communication.
Okay.
And there was a little bit of delay because, like I said, the property immediately to the south of that is owned by the town, but it turns out this is property that's owned by the park board. So I told him, I spoke to him today again and told him I would give you that information and ask you to reach out to him.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you for that. Anything else, Craig?
That's all I have.
Okay. On reports and correspondences, like to reach out to the town council liaison, Mr. Pondinas. Wayne, do you have comments?
Yeah, I'd like to say that the water park went out of commission for a short time, and I thank everybody that was involved in getting that fixed, Gabe and everybody, and the people, the residents of the town were patient on the water pipe broke, the main going into it. They were patient on getting it fixed. It was only down maybe 4 or 5 days, a weekend. That worked out great, good response. I think everything is going good in the town. The parks are getting mulched, they're getting taken care of. It's a process that's going to take a while. So everybody's been patient, a lot of good comments, and I want to thank everybody for the comments, and Gabe and the high school and the college kids that are working for the Parks Department. They're doing a great job, very respectful and very courteous and good hard workers. And I want to thank everybody involved for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. And as you all know, naturally, a water park, it's going to have issues when it's the hottest time of the year, of course.
Yeah.
So, moving on then, we're going to go to item number 11, payment of bills.
I'll make a motion to approve the payment of bills in the amount of $46,261.97.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Are there any public comments?
Hold on, let's give him a minute.
Okay, Wayne, you already talked. You're good. Okay, item number 13, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.